Hi, I'm Rachel Olson, founder of Best Mom Products, where mompreneurs share their adventures in business. Today I'm talking with Jessica Frey, founder of Pee Wee Patch Kids. Pee Wee Patch Kids is a children's clothing line that Jessica founded in 2009 after searching for the perfect pant to protect her own child's tender knees as she crawled and cruised. They're thoughtfully designed with an adorable padded knee patch to protect babies as they crawl, stumble, and tumble through babyhood and the toddler years. So, ever wonder what it takes to become a designer and manufacturer of a children's clothing line? How does a VP of Goldman Sachs Investment Bank make this change? Jessica,
Well,
we're glad to have you today. Welcome to our show.
thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, so tell us, how did you make such a big change in your life?
Well, the change happened when I became pregnant and decided that I no longer wanted to be in the workforce in a traditional manner, because it was important to me to be at home with my daughter. So I left Goldman Sachs and spent a good portion of the first year just focusing on being a mom and spending time with my daughter. And then I started to feel like, maybe there could be something else that I could focus my energy on.
Okay.
And yeah.
So how did then, you weren't in retail, so how did this particular idea come to you?
Well, I think it came to me just like a lot of ideas come to moms, where you are spending so much time with your children and you realize, hey, there could be a better way to do this or a better way to do that. And I thought, they should make some pants that protect babies' knees as they crawl, because I saw my daughter crawling around and her knees were getting red and stuffed up. And then I asked myself the question of, well, why should it be they when it could be me who does that? So yeah, that's how the idea blossomed.
Okay. What's the first thing that you did when you had the idea?
Well, I had no idea what it would take. So the first thing I did was see if there was something out there already of a similar idea that I had. And there, my idea is not new. There are other moms and other companies out there that are producing a similar product. However, I felt that I had a different take on it, and I could find my own niche within that market. So besides researching competition, the next thing I did was, I flew out my mother-in-law, because she's a seamstress and I'm not, and had her sew up a prototype of the pants just so I could get a visual of how it would look and what it would take to make these pants.
Okay, so let's get this straight. So you had the idea, and then you decided you weren't sure what to do. So we started looking at competition was one of the first things you said. So how did you still decide to do it after looking at the competition? What did you feel that you could do that could differentiate yourself from the other companies that were already doing this? So it validates the market, right? That
Yes.
there's other companies doing it, so that's a positive.
Yeah.
And then how is yours different, or how did you think you could do it better?
I just felt that the idea that I had would combine the functionality that I saw some other companies were doing. So they were doing a pant that had the same functionality as my idea. However, they weren't as what I would determine as a fashionable or stylish. So
Okay.
what would appeal to me as a mother, and a mother who wants to dress their children in cute clothes.
Yeah.
So I felt like there was a spot there for something that combined the functionality and the fashion that I wanted to bring to the market.
Okay, so then you had an idea as more of a designer, and then your mother-in-law comes out. So what happens? You make the prototype and you decide this is it? Like, were you 100% sure this is it? This is what you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, it just felt right. So she came out, she made the pants. We kind of worked with some different fabrics, and we tried them on my daughter, and then I got some feedback from friends and family of, what do you think? And from other moms. And the feedback was positive. And so I felt like, I just kept thinking, I'll explore the next step. So what would it take after that? So after I have the prototype, what's the next step? And then what I decided I needed to do was figure out, would it be a viable product, and in terms of the cost to have it made, and then the cost that I would need to sell it for. So I had to embark on figuring out how to have clothing manufactured. It was completely not in my background, as you mentioned before, and I had to educate myself. So I spent the better part of a year educating myself on how to get into apparel manufacturing.
Okay, so yeah, tell us. So exactly what did that take? What did you do to get into apparel manufacturing?
Well, I started with Google, right? So I just started figuring out, like, I looked at other blogs of moms who had started this process. I searched for any classes that might make sense for me, and I actually ended up finding a program in San Francisco, which is wonderful, that fosters entrepreneurs, and they had a specific course on getting into the fashion business.
Okay.
So
what was that called? Sorry to cut you off.
I think it was something as simple as, like, entering into the fashion business or making your way in the fashion business or something like that. The center is called the Renaissance Center of San Francisco.
Okay.
And they promote a lot of small entrepreneurs, and will do courses on all kinds of industries and topics, but they happened to have one that was around the fashion industry. And it was a very nuts and bolts type course. So it was, start from the beginning in terms of making a business plan and figuring out your marketing strategy and your marketing mix, and how are you going to sell, and the cost of goods sold, and the very tactical, like, things that you need to do before you even embark on having something made or taking the next step. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was perfect because I'm a very methodical person, and I needed to run all the numbers and see, on paper, was this going to make sense? Like, yes, it's a cute idea, but is it feasible?
Right. So our listeners have a better idea and understanding of this. Did you put numbers into a spreadsheet? How did you start calculating what your costs were going to be?
That was very difficult, actually, to do because, yes, I started with a spreadsheet, and I had to guess on a lot of numbers, right? Fabric costs and manufacturing costs and shipping costs and all of those things. I had to thoroughly research, and it took and just sort of guess at times how much it was going to cost. So I started with the fabric, and got my reseller's license and went to the fabric show in LA and found out how much it costs per yard of fabric for a reseller. And then started to, then I went and talked to different manufacturers in San Francisco, which again was a hard step because the manufacturing industry in San Francisco has dwindled in size. Most people produce overseas, but I was very adamant about doing this production, or this run anyway, in San Francisco. And so I had to network to find these manufacturers in San Francisco, and then talk to them about, an estimate of what it would cost per pair of pants to sew them together. And then, for me specifically, I had so many different details with the patch and the different ways to put it onto the pant that I had many layers of costs that I had to figure out. And it took a long time. But yes, that's exactly what I did, was just build a business plan around that and kind of give myself, some room there, because I didn't have hard and fast numbers until I was actually ready to go into production. Right.
So how long do you think from start to finish, from when you had the idea to when you decided to do your first round in production in San Francisco?
It was about 15 months.
Okay. And how often were you working on this? Like, how many hours a week would you put in? How would you manage it all with, I know you have, a 3.5-year-old, and you also have 10-week-old twins?
Yes.
Oh my God. So tell me, how does all of this work?
Well, in the beginning, I just would try to do it during nap time, right? And so I would get in a few hours during the week and make my calls and attend the class. Fortunately, it was geared towards working people and people with busy lives, and so the classes were at night. So I would do that, and it was a very slow process, which was hard for me because I wanted to move it along much quicker than I could. But my first job is still being a mother to my children. So that took priority. So that's, I think had I been able to focus 30 to 40 hours a week on it, I'm sure I would have been able to cut the time in at least half.
You've gotten to this point, it's 15 months down the road, so you figure out how much money you need to start this business. When you figure this out, do you figure it out through the manufacturing process, or did you take it all the way through what you're going to need for marketing and then customers and getting shipping set up and the whole thing? Or tell me how you figured all that out and then how you went about financing.
Well, so initially when I had the idea, I was talking to somebody who had gone in or had tried to go into production for T-shirts. This woman wanted to do screen printing on T-shirts, and she said to me that she got to the point where she realized she was going to have to make a $10,000 investment. And at that time, I was like, "That's crazy. I am not going to spend that much money." But I quickly discovered that it is at least that much to get yourself off the ground if you're going to be doing any kind of apparel manufacturing. So I slowly, as I was doing my research into the manufacturing class, I was discovering that it was going to cost me more money than I initially had thought. And it evolved in the sense that once I had a good handle on how much it would cost me to have these outfits made, I decided that I did not want to go through the traditional channels of trying to sell to retail boutiques, because my margins then would be much too slim. So at that point, I decided I was going to have to sell direct to the consumer, and that would be via, vendor fairs that we have locally, as well as a website. So the website then became another big budget chunk that I needed to I needed to account for. So it grew, and I didn't do anything. I didn't pull the trigger on anything until I sort of had a good idea of how much this was going to cost me. But it did include marketing, because and the website was definitely the biggest chunk of that.
Right. Okay. So you figured out. So did you have any idea of what it was going to take to sell it online and at fairs versus what you thought like eventually you would go into retail? Like, what was I guess you had your beginning vision, and then what's your big vision, I guess, for where you would like to see Pee Wee Patch go?
Well, it's changed, definitely. So initially I thought that I would go into brick and mortar boutiques and try to sell them that way. And then, like I said, I revised that to sell primarily direct to the consumer. And this initial run has always, for me, been a test marketing run. So I produced the pants, I had them made, I built the website, but I did a small run. So I know that, I'm going to try to sell through these. We'll see what I'm seeing what the market will bear with it in terms of price and the interest. And then, my long-term vision is I would like to be able to have them manufactured at a lower cost without going overseas. Mm-hmm. But that's a very real possibility for, and I just have to be honest with myself that at some point there might be, I might need to go overseas if I do want to get into a traditional boutique type situation so that my costs are lower. So it's evolving, but I think, it's hard to say, it's like, I want to see where this goes with this first run. And then if, what I'm hoping and what I am working towards is that I'll be able to do a larger run at a lower cost. Uh-huh. And then slowly start to move that mix of wholesale versus retail sales.
Okay. So tell me, how is it going so far? So now you've gone through manufacturing. You're marketing it. How are you marketing it? How is it selling? What are you learning about all of that?
Well, so I'm marketing. Right now I'm doing only online sales. So okay. I invested a lot in my website, and I have a store on my website. And the first thing I did once the website was up and my outfits were manufactured was have a trunk show, which was wonderful. I had 4 wonderful friends who put it together for me, and we that was my sort of entry into the market, which was great. So that gave me some positive feedback in terms of like, okay, let's move this forward. And then in terms of promoting it online, my marketing strategy really is to get in front of a lot of mommy bloggers and really work the social media angle, because I think that that's how a lot of moms who own their own businesses find success these days. What happened in between was I had twins in the middle of all this, which is sort of,
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It amazes me. I mean, you keep going. I can't believe you're working, you're doing this interview. This is a Sunday afternoon, everyone.
I hear babies crying in the background.
Oh no. Let me know if you have to go.
But,
so I wanted, so you've gone through all of this, and you're doing the marketing, and so social media, I want to focus on that, because I think that's something that, all of us as mompreneurs and entrepreneurs, it's really where the future is at, and it's really where somebody who is innovative can make a living. And we see that with Etsy, we see that with all of these different things. So blogs, like, how do you go about, so tell me a little bit, like, you've been blogged about, and, who covered you, and how exactly did you get that to happen?
Well, so recently I was featured on a blog called Launch Her, Her, and they primarily focus on women-owned businesses. And I was introduced to them through another woman or mom-owned business. And I just want to say, like, I think it's key that we network with other mom-owned businesses, because you can promote each other. Mm-hmm. So I was introduced to Launch Her through another company, and they have a submission process, as do many blogs out there, where you submit your product and you write your story and you tell what it's about, and then they decide if they're going to do a feature on you. And most of them are, legit in terms of they're basing their own opinion. You're not paying for the feature. Uh-huh. And there's a lot of those out there that I think that if you just can spend the time researching that and networking and trying to, find all of them, right? That right. you can start to get some buzz about your product.
Right. So as terms of movement, it sounds like, obviously the more time that you have to dedicate this, the more movement you would have, the more press you would get. I mean, it's basically free publicity for you.
Yeah.
So what did you do as far as publicity? Like, did you do a press release? Like, what are some good ways to get other publicity for free?
I did do a press release. I had a friend who is a former PR executive, and she wrote up a press release for me. And I sent it to, ahead of the launch party, I sent it to a couple of local blogs who do features on upcoming events locally. And so I got on a local blog in Oakland, which was great, with the press release. And then, like I said, I've sort of had to put this on hold because of the twins. Yeah. But getting back into it, I am going to be doing a vendor fair in October, and I will again write a press release about it, send it to local press, send it to some local bloggers, and and just hope to get the word out there. And I have to say that I think Twitter and Facebook are huge, and you need to be tapped into that to do it. And I have a very small presence at the moment on Twitter, but it's amazing already, like the impact I feel like it has. Mm-hmm. And if I were able to dedicate a lot of hours to it, yeah. I think that you actually do see some successes.
Yeah. No, this is great. I mean, I think you've touched on all of the really important things and interesting and how you got started. And, we talked a little bit about financing and the classes that you took and your background and all of those transitions. And so it sounds like, I want to go back to the financing too for the people that are listening to this. So you figure out how much it's going to cost. Do you feel like from where you were when you started it to now, do you feel like your projections were accurate, or do you feel like there was a lot of miscellaneous things that came up? And if there were, what were some of those?
I feel like they're pretty accurate, and that's because I spent a lot of time doing my due diligence.
Okay.
I think if you don't spend the time really thinking every step of the way through, there are surprises. And I was still surprised during the process of like how much it costs to have hang tags made, or how much it costs to, get the little labels for your clothing. And then once I decided I wanted to become an LLC, those were big costs, like around that I hadn't initially anticipated. So there were always costs that came up that I hadn't anticipated. The bulk of the cost, obviously, is the manufacturing for me and the website. So I had a good handle on those two major budget expenditures. But there are always things that continue to creep into your
right. You can't plan for it all, but you can, at least know that when you're putting money towards it, whether it's financing a loan or doing it yourself or however you do it, to put aside like a little extra chunk for all of like those unexpected things.
Yes.
So like anything that you would have done differently in the startup process that could benefit other people who are just starting a business.
Well, I think I've had some moments, as you would call them, that are pretty specific to manufacturing children's apparel. But what I found was that and this actually probably applies to many businesses, but you're the one, right? You're the owner. You're the one with the idea, with the design idea. And the buck stops here, right? So you have to be on top of it. You have to be on top of any vendor that you're outsourcing any of the work to. And for me, I had two major mishaps with the manufacturing process with the pants and with the shirts. Luckily they were able to be resolved, but I thought I was on top of it. And you literally need to be babysitting this. This is your baby.
Right. So can you give me an example of one of your mishaps?
So one of them was I use t-shirt blanks for my for the tops that go with the pants in the outfit, and I was having them sew on a pocket to coordinate with the pants. And I went and had the meeting and talked about the placement and how how it was going to be sewed on, and everything looked like it was going to go great. I go to pick up the 200 shirts that I had done, and I'm not kidding, 80% of them, the pocket was crooked. And clearly I could not sell a shirt with the crooked pocket. But they had gone through the whole run. So had I, been there the first day and seen, the first 10 come off, then I would have caught it in the beginning and saved myself some money and saved them time. Everybody time. But I didn't, and so I had to. The manufacturer was reluctant to pull the pockets off, as they were worried that it was going to create holes in the shirt. So I ended up having my mother-in-law again and my mother, who are detailed seamstresses, take off all the pockets and put them back on for me.
Oh my gosh!
Which is an incredible amount of work, and clearly, I had paid to have this done professionally. And, it was my screw up. It was my screw up for not being there and seeing the first 10.
Wow, that's interesting. And you wouldn't have necessarily known to do that. You had the meeting, you put it in their hands, and then there's no repercussions. They didn't want to take that chance. And so then basically you're out that money that you had spent for that. And you have to then find a solution on your own.
Exactly. I ended up negotiating a discount in the price because it was their mistake. They should have also caught it, but at the end of the day, these are my shirts.
Right.
So it was up to me to fix them or start the process all over again.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Live and learn. And,
yeah, right.
Next time you'll be there and you'll know that.
Right.
I guess I want to end with kind of what's the one personal trait that you feel is most important as an entrepreneur?
Dedication.
Yeah.
And you really have to have that inner drive to do this. And you have to love what you're doing. because there are I would say not necessarily as an entrepreneur, but as a mom entrepreneur, right? A mompreneur, there are so many things in your day that can get you distracted, or you just feel like, look, it's too much. It's too much for me to balance. It's too much for me to handle being a mom and trying to get this off the ground. So I think you really have to sort of dig deep before you embark on something to decide, like, is this going to bring me satisfaction, enough satisfaction to warrant the late nights and the constant juggling and the stress that comes along with adding this into your life. But, for me personally, even though, like I said, it hasn't gone as quickly as I would have liked, it's rewarding. It's gives me something else to kind of feel good about, what I'm doing at this stage in my life.
No, that's great. I think that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that insight, and I feel like it's, it's good. It's good to have another focus. And, I thank you for sharing how Pee Wee Patch arrived and candidly sharing your aha moments and your uh-oh moments. Yeah. And Pee Wee Patch Kids can be found online at www.peeweepatchkids.com. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, Jessica?
I just want to say thank you, Rachel, for doing this. I think this is a wonderful way for people to hear each other's stories and learn. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I would have liked to have talked to somebody that was in my exact situation when I was starting out. So, and I'm going to continue on. Like, I have constantly so many questions. So this is great that you have this forum.
Oh my God, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, this is the exact reason why I'm doing this. It's, I've been there too, and I feel like as you try to go through and create a product or do something on the side, it's so much more helpful to have, to learn from other people's mistakes before you make the big ones yourself. Because we're all going to make mistakes, but at least we can avoid some of them.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye.